All right, hi everybody. I'm Jeremy Alessi. I'm the founder of a company called Midnight Status, an event called PixelFest. You can see our tagline right there is growing artists and programmers through love of games. This is something, as Zach mentioned, that became very popular last year, sort of much to our surprise. We had nearly 5,000 attendees. We expected to have 100 in our wildest dreams. We created the event because we were making a game for Nintendo Wii U called Swapfire. And we were speccing out all these different places on the East Coast. We're like, all right, we're going to go show our game off here and here and here. We're going to build up this audience before the game releases. And we said, there's nothing in Hampton Roads, so let's make something in Hampton Roads. We went to Slover Library to see how much it would be to get some space. And we were like going to maybe get a little room, maybe the 6th floor, but something where we could put some people in, have a game jam. And that's where people make a game in a short period of time. You say, okay, we're going to just really cram over like 48 hours and make a game and see if that's fun or whatever. The library liked this idea so much that they said, hey, this actually sounds educational, and what could you do more? And I somehow, this wasn't the first conversation, but somehow more turned into the entire library, which is 7 stories, including the basement. And so you can see, this is a picture from our kickoff party last year where Kishibashi played. Who knows Kishibashi? Anybody go to Kishibashi? Yeah, a couple people in there. So Kishibashi, his parents lived next to me, and I made a game for him a few years back. That's the game in the background, and he's playing for us. So it was a really cool experience creating an event. I think it's something that I always wanted to do, but we did not plan. I can't really say that we planned for the success that we had necessarily. It was definitely a right time, right place thing, and we had a lot of help. It wasn't just us. I mean, I brought as much as I could to the table, but so did Henry Meredith, who works with me, and so did the whole library staff. And so this was very much a big team effort. And I think just because it was something new in the area, a lot of people, we were covered by the news. I mean, we did all this marketing, we did all this stuff, but like within the last week, all of a sudden, all these news stations found out about it, and some of them were people that we knew, and then some of them were people that those people knew, and so on and so forth. So it got pretty big, and we're going to do the sophomore event April 7th through the 9th. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about why you should be there if you're an entrepreneur. Who's actually interested in game development here? Anybody? All right, a couple people. All right. So anybody that's interested in game development might want to do our game jam, which is going to be April 5th through the 7th. But I'm going to talk about how our game jam is actually the culmination of my experience as an entrepreneur in this area, and sort of what it means. Before we go too far though, this is a really cool video that a guy just shot last year, just to give you an idea of what PixelFest was, and this is the main reason I wanted this. So this was pretty cool. Oh no, what's going on? Green color channel is going crazy there. Something I like about that video is that it shows that there really were people of what I like to say all ages and skill levels at the event. So it was everything from toddlers, and you could see them playing with like Minecraft blocks and things, on up to professional developers that are sitting there fine-tuning their craft, right? So I think that's the important thing about it though, is that it's a 7-story library, and there literally is every level of game player in there, because some people say that game development is the ultimate game in and of itself. Now the reason this is important for our entrepreneurial ecosystem, I spent a lot of time here, I spent a lot of time at Peninsula Technology Incubator and 757 Creative Space and other incubators and accelerators in the area, and the conversations that I kept having as an entrepreneur with people were, either Jeremy, can you help me, tell me what to do with my engineering. How do I make this simpler for people? And then I would talk to other people who would come to me and ask me questions. Well, I've got this really great idea. How could I execute this? And there was just this really big gap with all the people that I was meeting. There was nobody like in the middle that could sort of, Xerxes just spoke, and when he got started, he did a lot of stuff himself. He's like, yeah, I'll do the website. Maybe I'm not the best person to do that, but I'll kick it off. Or, I'm going to create some graphics and some stuff for my marketing. Maybe I'm not the best person to do it, but I'm going to kick it off.
Was not the best person.
Yeah, and seldom are we, as individuals, ever the best at any one thing. But in order to sort of foster what I'd like to say is a new direction vector, I'm really big on vectors. I have a little book and a philosophy called Life as a Vector. I actually pitched that at a startup night. But in order to get a direction started and get other people interested in that, you kind of do need to wear all those hats. You need to kind of be in the middle. You need to be a little technical, and you need to be a little social and sort of able to communicate that idea in order to get your intention across. And so the thing that I realized is that over the last 8 years, everybody's all excited about what technology can do. Mobile phones have really transformed the world and the economy, and people want to operate in that space. They like this idea of reaching millions of people and changing their lives somehow, adding value like that. But if you can't write any code or you can't do anything technical at all, well, then you're not going to be able to partake in that economy. And if you're not able to take your engineer, like if you're like a hardcore engineer, but you can't take that engineering and make it simple and make it understandable for somebody in 3 seconds, well, you're not going to be successful either. So I think personally, the thing that I was able to channel through PixelFest was that, yeah, come on in because you love the games, and then realize we've got this game jam going on, and we've got people actually making stuff there, and also realize that if you're an entrepreneur, you might be able to gain some value from this because you're going to learn. We've got a bunch of classes, all sorts of stuff to really help foster that understanding, so that hopefully everybody can sort of come together and meet in the middle a little bit. You can engineer something or you can have a great idea, but it does take both to put it together. And last year at our game jam, we had a business panel. I don't know where Zach went, but he spoke at the business panel along with Bo Turner. We had a guy named Tony Powell, who's an indie developer, and David Hernley. And people really found a lot of value in that. So this year we've extended it. So our game jam is April 5th through the 7th. And then we've got an event called DevCon that is going on, which is April 7th through the 9th. And that's on the 6th floor this year during the event. So floors 5 all the way down to the basement are going to be filled with basically consumers, I think, for lack of a better term. A lot of people are there just to play games, and there are going to be vendors there and all sorts of stuff. Up on the 6th floor, though, that's where our professionals will gather. We've got some really great speakers, and I'm just going to bring you over to, got a little flyer here. And these are people that have either built a business or built some software, maybe a little bit of both, or they've done something with games, or maybe they're in charge of a program. We've got people that'll be there from NATO, we've got people that'll be there from ODU, and countless other groups that will be there. So we want to foster a really great networking environment at the PixelFest DevCon. And so you've got this flyer here, and we're really focused on entertainment, education, and entrepreneurship. So as a developer, I actually started my career as an indie game developer. One of my games, Aerial Antics, was one of the first published by Garage Games way back. That's pretty much the company that coined the term indie game. And Jeff Tunnell was the founder of that company, really helped me get my footing in the indie game development world, and I'm forever appreciative to him. And from making indie games, I went on to making mobile games. I think I was explaining to some people some of the successes I had there. And I got into serious games and mod sim for a few years. I worked at L3 Communications, and I developed software for the Marine Corps and the Department of Transportation, several other places. And I got laid off from that job. And when I got laid off, I started looking at the unemployment. I could have gotten unemployment, and I was like, well, should I get unemployment? I look for another job. What should I do? And I was like, what? Screw it. This unemployment stuff is going to take way too long, way too much of my time. I'm just going to make another game. So I made this game called Airspin. That's how I met Zach and all the other entrepreneurs in this area. This game, Airspin, topped the App Store in 2012, and I did a little talk, which was how to top the App Store for $1,000 over at Nauticus. It was like an Ignite talk. I drove this guy crazy trying to speak there, and he wouldn't let me speak. And then another local entrepreneur got sick, and he called me about 4 hours before the event and said, "Hey, will you come speak?" And at that point, I really wasn't comfortable speaking in front of people yet, but I was like, you know what? I pushed this guy hard enough. All right, I'll do it. So that's how I met all these other great entrepreneurs in the area, which through that. After doing Airspin, I got to do a lot of different things, because once I got into the entrepreneurial sort of network, I founded a company called Because, which is like the first options trading company for Bitcoin, with some of the people that I met over at PTI. And I did some more consulting. I did some work for NATO, so I know these NATO guys that'll be coming over to PixelFest and talking to us about the mod sim stuff that they do there. Yeah, and it's just funny how business works. Things open up new opportunities, and you never know where you're going to find that next connection. And now I'd like to think that we're going to bring some really great connections to our local developers and entrepreneurs. And one other thing I want to point out is some of the hands that went up for people that are interested in game development, even if you're not technical, and this is something that a lot of people who have been to other game jams have said, is I was a business person or a marketing person, and I really felt out of place at name a game jam that they went to, because usually game jams are focused on just the art and the engineering and not much else. So at our game jam, there is a marketing leg. So people will develop, the technical leg will be April 5th through the 7th. They're going to market that game to this huge crowd of people that will be at Slover Library. We're going to tell people to get pre-orders at that, and then they'll get to pitch it at our DevCon. So you can see though at our DevCon, Chris Melisinas will be there speaking about the art of video games. He also founded the Java for Games initiative at Sun Microsystems that led to Minecraft. And then Bill Ritchie will be there. He's the CEO and co-founder of ThinkFun. You can find their games in any Barnes & Noble. So we're going to have some good speakers. There's a lot of other speakers as well. So hopefully we'll see you guys there. Please go by pixelfest.org and register. You guys should definitely come to the DevCon. It's going to be a great event.
Questions?
So you found that there are certain industries that are more inclined to, other than the individuals, are there certain industries that are more inclined to looking at the game?
Well, the big industry around here, and they hire a lot of game developers, is obviously the serious games and mod sim. So
yeah.
In our area, government contracting is huge, and they are looking for game developers. That's how I got into it. Somebody was like, man, we need somebody to do this thing. And it was a word of mouth thing. And I was like, I read about serious games in Wired about 10 years ago. Sure, let me help you out. And I found that was a world that really could benefit from game development. Ed tech and education is another world. So we've, our Midnight Status does the computer science courses at Norfolk Collegiate School. And we've got a program called Dev Team there. We've taken some of those kids in here to Hatch to pitch after they've made it their own app. And in that world as well, there's a big need for this. People are seeing that gaming is more than just sort of like sitting on the couch and getting fat or whatever you think, whatever the stereotype is. It's not just that. There's a lot more that can be done with it, and so those are the sort of the two worlds outside of obviously entertainment. You've got entertainment gaming, but education. There's big movement for gaming inside of straight up education, ed tech, and mod sim and serious games. So.
Yeah. So as a developer, what's your favorite video game?
My favorite game, I always just go back to Pilot Wings on the SNES. That was a game that I really appreciated when I was growing up. It was one of the first games that made me feel like the environment was dynamic, like I could go anywhere and do anything inside of that. Sort of prior to Pilot Wings for me, and at my age, a lot of games were really linear. And Pilot Wings also had great physics. I'm a big fan of physics. I love programming physics, and so I just that's sort of my old go-to. I think it's a very elegant game. A lot of people thought it was just like a tech demo, but.
At this event, are there going to be any setups for like beta testers or?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go over to the PixelFest site, you can join the game jam, and people are going to need people to play test their games that they're making, obviously. And if you partake in the game jam, of course, you'll also be able to have some creative direction over whatever it is, and you'll get to meet people. So I think to this particular audience, obviously, the group of people that we are normally talking to could use some help. On all of those fronts, testing, marketing, business stuff, business projections, any of that. So.
That's a two-part question. So number one, what do you see like as the main intention of your game jam? And then two, where do you see it in like 3 to 5 years? Yeah.
So the main intention for our game jam, I think initially, was just to show off our game and then maybe start to get a community together if that was possible. There's some guys in the back actually were in our game jam last year, Andrew and Chris. They made a game called Mermaids. And now we've hung out with these guys like every month or every other month for the last year and started to get to know them. And so there's a lot of other people. So building community has been a big part of that. I think marketing Swapfire, which was the very original inspiration for going out and trying to create an event, some good things came from that, but I think a lot of other things that were unintended consequences or the better things. Because we had a business panel at the event that Zach was part of and a couple of other people, that's why we're doing more of this stuff. Because I think the big weakness with game jams is they tend to just focus on the technical things and they don't focus on sales and marketing. So this year, what we want to do is we want to have people actually get pre-orders for their game concept like on Saturday. And be able to get up in front of a group of people and say, you know what, we got pre-orders on our game that we made Wednesday through Friday. And start to show that they're building audience and people would actually pay for that concept, whatever it is. And I think in 5 years, gosh, it would be awesome this year if somebody either invested in one of those teams or if somebody offered one of those teams a contract because they said, you know what, that thing that you did in that game, we could use that for whatever.
And what are most platforms that they're building it on?
So a lot of people build in either Unreal or Unity, but a lot of people use HTML5. There's so many tools out there now.
Well, I mean, more where are these games being played, right? So are they being played?
Oh yeah. What platforms are they being played? I think most people last year just built Windows or Mac executables, but I'm sure there were a good number of them that could be, onto a portal. People talk about itch.io. People like Itch and people like Steam. I think at our jams predominantly those were the platforms, but I think Android, personally, is a pretty good platform just because it's so quick to put something out on Android and get feedback. So I'd probably implore people to do that. Anybody else?
I was going to say, so since it's kind of a business thing, right? Isn't logically the intention to be? I mean, if the future of video gaming is mobile, I mean, technically, like the new Switch is a mobile video gaming platform.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself being like a guiding force in kind of direction of these games? Like, to me, if I were helping people build games, it wouldn't really make sense to build anything on a computer. Like, are most of these guys doing mobile stuff too, or not really so much?
I think it's a little all over the place. The only reason I would recommend mobile to somebody is for that quick turnaround right now.
So you make money.
I don't know if the mobile app store market is actually the future anymore. I think it was the future 8 years ago. And that might be changing. Somebody who wants to go on Switch, yeah, I might tell somebody to go ahead and go onto the Switch. That's really hot right now, and the game industry is always sort of prone to those things. People keep saying the PC is going to die, but it just keeps living. So, I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody not to go on the PC. I might make a recommendation for the Game Jam not to use it just because it might be hard to sell quickly. But yeah, at the same time, Steam Greenlight is there, and I think you can get pre-orders pretty quickly. So, yeah. All right.